going to get this power. I knew that it was given to me by grace and to know my purpose. You get pushed through this pain to get to this power. That tends to give a divine scar, but the power gives you reinforcement. Pushing past the pain to let your voice be heard. Pushing past your fears to let your voice be heard. How much faith do you know to overcome your fears? You have blessing to someone to hear. There's a message in your words. There's a power in your voice. Keep pushing through your pain to keep that power. I keep my faith over fear to have the power in my voice to be heard. You have the power. You are resilient and you have the strength. Your voice is powerful and you need to know that you're powerful. Hold on to that power. Hold on to that power. Hold on to that power, which is the power in your voice. Use it to stand by grace. Use it to know your worth. And use it to be ready to show your knowledge. The power in your voice. A platform to be defined, which is inspiring, which is impeccable to give you knowledge, and which is a place for you to grow, to be walking in your purpose, being very amazing. The power in your voice. Hold on to that. Hello, 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 and thank you for tuning in to the Power in Your Voice. This is your girl, Sheena Gadon, better known as the lady behind the mask. And today, as always, we're here to educate, inspire, and motivate. And today, we have Eric in the building. Can you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Yes, I can. Thanks for having me, Sheena. That intro is cool. I
Thank
like that
you.
intro you got. It's unique and different. I liked it a lot.
That's
Um,
I'm a poet, so that's my poetry going with a little music.
I liked that. I was vibing a little bit. I was listening to what you were saying. That was very, very cool and unique. Um, yeah, my name is Eric Cogorno. I've been a golf coach for the past 15 years, teaching people how to play golf. And we took my in-person golf coaching business and started doing YouTube and social media, pretty hard in 2016, 17, and have been very fortunate to build and scale our business online. And sort of in the transition phase now with the golf coaching, getting into personal development. Very passionate about personal development and likes of like the Tony Robbins, the Jim Rohns. Have been very influenced by those sort of people, and so sort of in an interesting, unique spot now of shifting some of the golf coaching into personal development and trying to help people, Sheena, like I have with golf. I got to the place where I felt good enough with the sport to try and help other people get better. I think a lot of us go through the process where you learn to try and master a skill yourself and you help other people do it. I think I'm getting to the point now with that, with things like the personal development, building online businesses and things where I'd like to be able to share that and help other people who are interested in that as well.
Absolutely. So it's like kind of going into like online coaching people how to build their marketing audience.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
I
exactly.
love it. I love it. So, question, what made you decide to become a golf trainer? Like, what got you into this?
Yeah, I wish I had a story of like me wanting to help people and I had this big passion project. I really do. But it was honestly in the beginning, it was purely economic and financial. The short version of the story is when I grew up working at a golf course. I didn't grow up with any money or anything. So like I had jobs for minimum wage growing up. And I was working at this golf course, picking balls in the range. I'm probably about 18 years old. And so I'm picking balls in the range, and at that point, I'm probably making like maybe six or $7 an hour. I remember thinking I have to work 8 hours to make $50. I remember that as being a thought. And I pulled the golf cart on the side of the range, and one of the guys who was given a lesson, who became one of my great friends, Paul, he made an offhand comment that he had given a golf lesson to this older gentleman, and he had just made $50 in 30 minutes. And so I'm
Wow.
thinking like, damn, I gotta work 8 hours to make 50, but I used to do that in 30 minutes. And I was watching them teach, and like, they're in the shade under this building, they're laughing it up. This guy might have hit like 10 golf balls. It looked very easy. While I'm out there driving this golf cart, it's hot, it's August, I'm on this bumpy range. And so I thought, it'd be really nice to make that $50 in 30 minutes versus 8 hours. And that's honestly, if I'm being honest, what led me to start getting into the coaching. Now, from there, it's developed into a passion, and I've really loved being able to help a lot of people, and the people were able to help online and stuff. But it really just was like, I'd like to be able to make some more money to pay my bills, and this is probably a better option.
Absolutely. You know how it's like, okay, why work harder, but just tend to then work smarter to make the same amount of money and not be the creator. So I definitely get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, how can you build a brand online, increasing your audience?
Yeah, yeah, love that question, Sheena. Thanks. I think so. Like as I talk to you now today, to kind of give some context here, this is our 8th year on YouTube. You know,
Wow.
and so
Congratulations.
thank you. I appreciate that. I've had a great partner, Mary Langle, and it's been a really, really fun ride. I've been very lucky and fortunate. But in year 8 compared to year 1, 2, 3, 4, is a different ballgame and conversation. I think in terms of building an audience, like in those early years and when we were going, obviously in terms of posting and consistency is a big deal of it. A lot of the people that I talk with don't post enough for a long enough period of time to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. And to give a real example of that, like we just started our new personal development channel. It's called Lessons I've Learned with Eric Cogorno. It's like a working title. Um, but if someone checks out cogornogolf.com, that's where you can see all the stuff I'm about to say. And I really like that, Sheena, being able to like talk about this stuff. This is stuff we're actively still doing, and stuff we're involved with. But the consistency of the content's big. Like posting, we would post every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for 8 years. That's a lot of posts. Like never
That
miss one, no
is.
matter what. There's a lot. So that's been a part of it for sure, the consistency part. Um, but maybe before that, and I think the answer for people to have good content and grow an audience is like really focusing more in the beginning on getting great at whatever the thing is that you're creating content about. So for me, for example, let's say I coach golf. Like I spent my first 10 years from age 18 when I heard that $50 thing to age 28, where like, man, I spent all of my energy on just trying to get great at coaching. So it took me, 10 years. And when you spend the time to get the expertise of the thing you're talking about, your content inherently is pretty good. Like people are going to want to hear what you say. You've got to figure out the things like the lighting, the audio, the that sort of stuff. But that's figure out a bowl. Like the expertise in the category, I think, is where a lot of people who create content skip that and want to skip that.
Right.
Uh, and that's like not fun to hear or great necessarily, but that's reality of like, I would spend the first things first, get great at the thing you're doing content on. Second thing is be willing to do it for a long enough period of time. With our new channel, the reason I brought that up is we're going to post 100 videos. Like to me, the first 100 videos someone posts is just practice, like zero expectation. You're going to get no views in the beginning. That's totally normal. But you have to get through the process to see like, okay, figure it out, get used to the muscle of posting. What's the content people want to hear? What's the thing that people react to? What's this title and thumbnail thing? And start modeling, which would be my third advice there, is model people in your space that are getting the sort of results that you want to get, and not copy, but
Just
model.
model.
Yeah, like it's like there could be someone in my space, in your space, et cetera, who's getting like 10x the results, and we're like, well, I kind of feel like I'm just as good as them, or yeah, our stuff's just as good. Like, why are they getting those views? And it could be things like how they title the videos, their thumbnails, the intros, the hooks, whatever. So I would like build expertise, be in it for the long haul with consistency, and then model success of other people. I think those are a good 3 to start with.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because like YouTube, I think is the hardest channel to
Mhm.
actually receive, as far as getting followers. What advice would you give to someone that is trying to build their YouTube channel since you're like exceeded
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
following and stuff over there?
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's some of the things I would have done earlier outside of those 3 things I mentioned there is like the title and thumbnail
Okay.
are so important. And in our first couple of years, I didn't realize that, and we didn't put enough emphasis on it. So, like in the beginning, we would film a video and then after come up with the title and thumbnail.
Mm,
Now we come up with the title and thumbnail first, like this is what we're going to do, and then we film the content. And the reality is, in the way YouTube works and the algorithms, is like we have to get people to click. So, when we look at news headlines and all that stuff, it's like you see these crazy headlines and things, And they've been doing that forever because it works in terms of attention. When people are on YouTube, and you and me, I mean, we look at our phones, we look at our TVs, there's so much stuff going on. It's like, how are we
Right.
going to grab someone's attention? And so we have to play that game. And I've resisted that for a while, but you have to play the game. You got to do a little shock and awe. It's got to be kind of borderline clickbaity, right? So, like, I'll give you an example. Let's say in a golf video where I shoot the same video, and one's like, how to fix your backswing. Okay. And then the other one's like, this one backswing tip will change your life immediately. Something like that. That second one's a little bit crazy. It's the same video, but like more people are going to click on that second one. And that can be tough to get yourself to do it. But I think once you do it a little bit more and see some results from it, and making sure that the content itself or the product is great no matter what, then it's easier to do. Because the worst thing in the world, you and I know, it's like to do a great product and no one sees it,
Right.
right? Or a great
Right.
video or a great book or a great product or whatever, and then no one sees it. So like we had to play the game a little bit to get people to click.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of like me being an author. I like people like to read with their eyes, so I try to find a catchy cover.
Mm,
So I,
hmm.
I I get what you're saying as far as because like us, if it seems interesting and it's something that you feel you need, that's what makes you click.
That's what makes you click. And to that, to double down on that too, one of the mistakes I made, I think this is a good, easy, interesting conversation to be had, but like we have success when we make content that the audience wants,
Right.
not necessarily what I want to do. So like in the early years, a lot I do content that like I liked or I thought was cool or whatever, but I'm not making videos for me to watch. Like that
Right.
took me a while to realize. Where I'm
Yeah.
like,
That.
we're making
Hmm.
books, we're making videos, products for the reader, and like just like selling a product, um, you have to give the people what they want, not what you want to give them.
Yeah, I think that's some of the things we fail to realize, like in the beginning. We're like, okay, I want to do this, but we got to remember it's not for us, it's for other people. So I love everything and all the advice you are definitely giving to people because I know me. It took me a while to eventually get 200 followers. So I know there's other people still trying to figure it out. So I had to ask that question.
Hmm.
How do you feel you became perceived as a top expert in your field?
Yeah, so like the boring real answer is those 10 years of study, you know. Um, so I think the it's hard to hack being great at what you do when you do things that other people are going to see.
Correct.
Just hard. It's hard to hack that. Now, I would say beyond that, like if you feel or someone feels like they're good at something, want to be like perceived expertise of someone else, how you speak and present is a big thing. Confidence and persuasion and the way that you speak with clarity, you know, on video comes off across. So let's say I'll give you an example again. Let's say I do a video on that backswing thing I mentioned, and I start like this. This is how I started my first couple of videos. Yeah. Hey guys, it's Eric, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix your backswing, and hopefully that helps you. Or I'm like, hey guys, it's Eric Cogorno. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to make the perfect backswing. It's going to totally transform your game. I've done this with several students before, helped them so much, going to help you too. Let's dive right in. So same video, same maybe thing, but the presentation of it. And
In
even if you
different
got
tone.
in different tone. And even if you got to fake it till you make it in the beginning, you sort of like fake the confidence. So just like if you were meeting someone, if you meet someone in person who has authority in their space, they sit a certain way, they
Mhm.
shake your hand a certain way, they walk a certain way, and the appearance, and so I think you have to kind of fake it till you make it and present yourself like that. And then if you can do that along with actually being good at it and spend the time behind the scenes practicing, that should be a good combo.
I love it. I love it. How did you take your coaching business to $80,000 totally online?
Yeah, so we went from kind of how it worked when I first started coaching. Um, I was doing that $6 or $7 an hour thing I mentioned, right? And then I was like, I'm
Mhm.
going to start doing these lessons. And at that point, I started charging $30 an hour, which was a huge bump in income. But I didn't coach that much. My first year, let's say I made $7,500.
Okay.
My second year, I made 15,000. My third year, I made 30. My fourth year, I made 60. My fifth year, I made 80, and I kind of got stuck at that like 80 to 90 grand a year, sort of coaching, in person. And then through the online and through the YouTube and stuff, we went from 80 to 1.5 million. And so we've had like a huge jump in our revenue,
Yeah.
but which has been great. But it's been being able to scale what I'm able to do one-on-one with someone and help one person at a time to be able to scale lots of people at once and have some monthly recurring revenue. And so we kind of built a gym model. I mean, there's a lot of layers we can go into here and talk for hours, but the simple version, right, is like when I was looking at how do we scale what we're doing, and I was probably like 27 or 28 at this time. I had built this coaching business. It was good. Like, I was making 80 grand a year, spending like 30, 40. So it was good for me. It was great. I don't need that much material stuff. But I was tired and I was kind of burnt out. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this for until I'm like 60 or 70 years old. Like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And a bunch of things happened at that same time sheet. It's like amazing the things that came together, depending upon what you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was feeling that burnt out. My friend sent me this Tony Robbins video. And I'll never forget, like I was in the bathroom getting ready to go out for dinner. And he sent me this thing and I clicked on it. And that video in and of itself didn't do much for me. I wasn't ready to hear that. But right next to it was a video from Jim Rohn. And I don't know if you've seen him or not. He was like Tony Robbins' mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And I freaking love this guy. And I clicked on that video and it was a goal setting workshop. And just the way he spoke, some people like talk and speak and you listen to them and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh gosh, that's like, yeah, oh, that makes great sense. It's like simple. And why didn't I think about that,
Right.
And he did that for me. And for whatever reason, I was just ready to hear what he was saying. And I did this goal setting workshop. And it was like, take a sheet of legal paper, for those that can see, like just like a legal pad, and write down everything on a sheet of paper. Like if you could create your dream life, think 10, 20 years out. No logistics, not what could I do, not what could I afford, just like no logistics. What would your dream life look like? And it's the first time I ever did that and wrote that out. And, I put all these things on this list. I got houses, I got cars, I got beach houses, whatever. And I went through and I kind of put on each side, he said, then figure out how much each of those cost. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. And I figured out for me to live my dream life, I needed like 20 grand a month. That's what the number came out to. 240 grand a year. And then I was like, what would be really cool is if I could live my dream life with financial freedom. So like if I had enough money invested that spit out all that, where I could work if I want to or not work if I didn't want to. Jim says like the goal of all of us should be to be able to live our dreams life, live our dream life, with financial freedom. So anyway, I did the math on that and I was like, oh, okay, that'd be cool to do. And I'm like, I wonder how soon I could do that, And then I'm like, well, I wonder if I could do that in 10 years. And so I laid out this little like 10-year thing of how much money I need to make, whatever. And the reason I tell that story is it took me doing that to see the number I needed to make per year to get to that goal. And the number I need to make per year is 1.2 million. And at that point, when I was doing what I was doing, that might as well have been like 100 billion. Like it was so far out of reach for me. It was wild. But I never opened my mind to the possibility of that even being a thing until I did that workshop. And as soon as I opened my mind to that being a possibility, and I started thinking about that on a regular basis, then I started to think like, how would I make 1.2 million a year? Like, how would that even be possible? Is there anyone in my industry who does that? How do they do that? And there was a guy who did, and he had a membership site. So he charged these people these monthly things. So I'm like, okay, that's what we can do. And so we built that and we do coaching online where people sign up for a monthly fee. We give them, different coaching options and getting that monthly recurring revenue. But I really like the thing that hits me is that would have never, ever, ever happened or been possible had I not watched that video and he opened my mind to that even being a possibility, because I was making the amount of money and was thrilled with that because that's what I thought kind of was possible. I was like, this is what this is. And so I could talk about that one thing for like an hour or so, but if there's one takeaway from this, if someone listening hasn't done that, the power of writing down that dream life and like doing the math on it and opening our minds to the possibility. And if there's someone in the world or in your space that does that, it's a possibility, something that we can model. Long answer, but hopefully that helps.
No, it does help because the thing about it is it goes to how you say whatever you believe if it made you feel a purpose. Someone sent you a video to empower you. That wasn't the video that did it for you, but it was something right next to it that then triggered you to press that, which then triggered you to change your mindset, which during the workshop. So absolutely that it trickled from one thing to the purpose of where you are now. So it does
Mm,
answer the question for me. I'm one that I see the bigger picture, and a lot of things people and persons and places and things are sent to you for reasons and seasons.
hmm.
And at that moment, you was sent something to guide you to where you are now, which now you're onto a bigger purpose because now that season has now growth you to your next season.
Mm.
So
Very well said.
absolutely,
Yes, ma'am.
absolutely, it's amazing. And the one thing I do also want to ask you, because with Sheena Master Motivation and the Power in Your Voice, we are all about unmasking some things. So just know a couple of questions is going to go a little deep.
Let it
So
rip.
my question for you is, a lot of times as we work through things, we tend to learn things about ourselves. So what
Mm.
do you feel you learned from where you were now and how you grow from where you were then to how you grew now? What do you feel you learned about yourself during this mission?
Yeah, love everything you said there. Hey, love all of that. Very well said. I think the main thing that comes to mind is that I learned that I'm capable of a lot more than I was doing. And more doesn't mean like more hours of work.
Right.
More in my mind means like bigger impact, helping more people. Like you said before, I didn't realize I grew up with more of a fixed mindset of like I kind of thought you people are how you are, like people don't change. You hear that a lot. Like this is just how I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be.
Right.
I wasn't I didn't watch personal development. I wasn't aware that you can get better and change. Like as I sit here and talk to you now, I'm such a different person than I was a year ago, but 10 years ago. And I never even knew that was a possibility. And so I think the thing that I've learned along the journey is the growth that can actually happen. Now, that didn't happen by accident. Like I
Right.
put a lot of work into personal growth every day, you know what I mean? But that's the biggest thing. I think I've learned that things reveal themselves along the way. That I think when I get clear, you get clear on like a direction we're heading, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. The path reveals itself. And the other thing when I think about what we're capable of 3, 5, 10 years from now, if that's true, and we're going to be different versions of ourselves then, we don't even know now what the version of ourselves 5 years from now will be capable of. And so I also think I learned with that in mind that I was always thinking too small. And it's not always like the money stuff it's just like a measuring tool, but just thinking small in terms of like what we could do, impact, etc. And that's the thing that I think about a lot now. Like I spend 10 to 15 minutes every day doing visualization, manifestation stuff of what I want my future to look like. That's been tremendous for me. Um, but I wonder like what I'm not thinking of that I could be doing, like what is the possible things that I'm not thinking of and aware of. All the things that I write down on those goals lists and I think about every day have come to fruition in various forms. Not always how I think, you know, um, and that's powerful. And I wish I would have heard that Jim Rohn thing or someone would have hit me with that earlier. And that's what I hope more people can hear, which is like this stuff does work if you work it and do it. Like I wrote that list down. Let's say I'm 5 years into that 10-year thing. So I did the work, and then every day I spend 10 to 15 minutes. Right? So it didn't just pop up 1 week
Right.
later, all this stuff. It does the work if you work with it. But I think that's the main thing that I've learned. And like the things that we're capable, like just like an author, like you don't learn how to be an author and write a book until you write the book. Like
Correct.
you've got to go through the process to do it, to become who you could become. And then once you write that first book, it's like who knows what's after that? Like what level of author could you be? Well, if you don't write the first one, you never know what the second one's going to look like. And
Correct.
so I think that was a lesson learned as well.
Yes. And I love it because the thing about, how you say what you look like in your old chapter, it grew
Mm,
you to the new chapter that you are in now. And that's the thing about planting seeds, because we you
mm,
he the video you watch plant the seed in you, which helped you grow, which now you're taking the seed that was planted into you to help you grow, to now planting it to people that you're coaching to help
mm,
them grow. And it's the levels that we tend to have to realize that it takes one step to the another, and it's not going to happen overnight, because people, they think it's supposed to happen overnight. Oh, I got this gold and it's supposed to happen like this. But like we said, it takes work, it takes confidence, it takes dedication. And I tell a lot of people all the time, being an entrepreneur is not for the weak.
mm. Mhm.
Because if you're not ready for those sleepless nights in those dedicated days and the consistency, it'll never work. And you
And
got to have the mindset for it.
got to. Beautifully said again. You and I are very aligned on all this stuff. And I think one of the things that has helped me, I used to be a guy who quit a lot of things. I'd start something, I'd quit something. When I had any sort of difficulty, I'd quit, start, quit. And I didn't know that things weren't supposed to work right away, or at least I didn't want to hear that.
Right.
And one of the things that helped me get through that and continues to help me, because I get days like that too, where I get smacked in the face. Anytime you think you get something figured out, then the universe gives you a little smack. And so I get that a lot still now. But I think that my clarity, and I say this to hopefully help someone else, I think that the clarity, like I'm so clear on where we want to go in 1, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, like crystal clear. I can picture it. I can feel the emotions and me being in that state to where when I have the daily ups and downs, it doesn't affect or bother me that much because I'm so clear on what like 10 years from now looks like. I think when I used to quit a lot, and if someone maybe can resonate with this, when something's hard and I don't have clarity on where I'm going, it's easy to get off track. But if I'm like, hey, I'm going here in 10 years for sure, no matter or 1 year, whatever, then it's like a blip on along the way. Something goes bad, a deal doesn't work, this didn't work, whatever. It's like it almost doesn't even matter because I'm so dedicated to this course ahead and moving in this direction. So that's helped me a lot. Like I think when I didn't have clarity, I didn't have those goals, and something would go off, and then I'm like not clear on the direction I'm going. It's easy to get on a side road. But if I'm like, hey, I'm going from New York to California, I'm heading this way no matter what, kind of what happens along the way is less relevant.
Absolutely. Now, to vice, because, a lot of people, everybody wants to have that $1 million company.
Mm.
What do you feel was your challenge within the first couple of years as far as you building this company for any future entrepreneurs out there that wants that $1 million company?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first thing I would say is the realization that for me, getting there, I couldn't do by myself. So I needed to build a team of people. I was very fortunate to meet my business partner, Mary Langle. So again, back to that stuff where a lot of things happen. I was burnt out. I saw that video. I met her that same week.
Mm,
So I was like, the timing there, right? So I would look to find who's or other people. Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan wrote a book called Who Not How. Who Not How. That's a book I've reread probably 20 times. Very, very good. The premise of that is like when something comes up that where you have a problem, you have to figure it out. Instead of thinking, how can I do this? It's like, who could do this? Who could help me do this? So as we've gone on, I've found that to be very helpful because I can't do everything. I don't know how to do everything. I probably don't have time to do everything, but there's always other people who can help and finding ways to incentivize other people. So when I was doing 80 grand a year, it was just me, one person. Like now as we go, I've got a business partner, we've got a full-time editor, I've got a full-time assistant, we have 6 or 7, there's like 10 people. So building a team, I think, is an interesting one. I think initially when you build something, there's likely going to be more work than your current pace. So like let's say right now we built a business that does whatever we do, and my need, like let's say when I was coaching in person, I was making 80 grand a year. I had to work 40 hours to make 80 grand, let's say. You want to build a business that over time you could do a million a year and only work 10. It's like decrease the work, increase the revenue. But it usually doesn't start out that way. It's like I was working 40, making 80, and now I'm working 50 because I'm building this online thing, still just making 80. So like the initial months of getting the ball moving forward, I worked more. That first 1, 2, 3 years, I worked a lot more. But again, with the clarity and vision of like 10 years from now, I'm gonna have that financial freedom. I can work less. I've got to that point a little quicker than I anticipated in terms of like the freedom of the schedule. And I gotta say, it feels just as good as I thought it was gonna. Like the ability to be able to do the work you want, when you want, with who you want, and have the freedom of that is cool. It's like a cool thing to strive for. But with the understanding, like if I could talk to myself now in those first early years, I'd say think about other people and don't try and do anything yourself sooner. I would say understand this first 1, 2, 3 years, you're going to work more. It's going to be hard. That's okay. But keep focus on like, what is this going to look like in 5 to 10 years? And as you know, I mean, you learn so much in those early years. Like we've had
absolutely.
1,000 pivots. Like this is where, oh, this is working really good. No, it's not anymore. Do this a little bit more and then do this a little bit more. But all the while still staying in the lane of like, this is the amount of money I want to make. We got to do it with a membership site and then just keep pushing that ball forward. See what works, right? Try stuff, double down the stuff that works, try new stuff. We probably spend 80% of our time along the way of like, find something that works, spend 80% on that, and spend 20% testing new stuff. And just like keeping that ratio along the whole way.
Now, to people that's starting out, sometimes finance be the hardest thing for some people. What advice do you have for someone that is trying to figure out the entrepreneur world, targeting their audience, and financial wise, trying to put it all together?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know different people are in different places, right? And what I can say is what worked for me. So like I said, I grew up for the first 27 or 8 years of my life. I never had more than a couple $100s in my name. So I didn't have no money laying around or nothing. I remember the first time I had like $10,000 saved, which I still probably the proudest financial thing I had was the first time I hit 10 grand saved, right? And so like I've been in all kinds of various levels of this stuff. The thing that happened for me when I was coaching, I built my coaching business, let's say to 50 grand a year, but I was spending 50. So I just
Mhm.
or spending even 55, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I had zero money saved, no leftover. The thing that helped me was starting with reducing my expenses to where I was still making the same money, but I'm like, of this 50 grand I'm spending, I don't really need XYZ. And I cut my expenses down. And that was the first time for me, Sheena, where like I had some wiggle room. Like, hey, I didn't make any more money, but since I'm spending a little bit less, I could save some money. And
Right.
then you got a little, then you got a little comfort going, but you can only save so much. Meaning you can only cut down expenses so much rather,
Correct.
right? And so like I could go from spending 50 grand a year to 30, but I couldn't go underneath that. So I would cut my expenses down and reduce stuff, especially if I'm trying to build some savings up. And then
Hmm.
I would focus on what do I need to do skills wise to increase my income. That's what I did. Cut expenses first, increase income second. And also when you cut your expenses down a little bit, like if I was making 50, instead of spending 55 being in debt, now I'm going to spend 30. Now I'm saving 20 grand a year. Now I've got a little more flexibility with my schedule. I could take a day off here or there. I could go on vacation. I could spend, whatever. Or I can invest that money into trying to make more money. And then how do I make more money? I think it depends on what you do ultimately. But like you want to increase the skill and increase the audience. So something I always try and do is I keep my supply the same and just try and increase my demand. Meaning, let's say I coach golf and I used to charge $100 per hour and I've got 20 hours to coach. I'm going to do these things to increase my audience. How do you increase your audience? Would be like social media, get more
Hmm.
people to know who you are, who might spend money. And as more and more people know who you are that potentially going to buy something, I'm not going to change my 20 hours. I'm not going to offer more. I'm going to keep that limited. So now before I had 20 hours, I filled them with 20 people, make 100. Now let's say I've got more people who want my product. I'm going to keep that supply at 20, but now I can raise the price because more people want it, but I only have 20 available, right? Now I charge 150 an hour. And then when I have this much people, more people want it. So I never change the supply, always increase the demand. And that's how you can work the same amount of hours, but make a lot more money. Now
Got
that's
you.
really easy to say, right? But the work involved in doing it is like, you got to be good at what you do. You got to post consistent on social media, model success, like all those things that we talked about. I think the beautiful part of where we are today, I just had this last piece to that, is like, um, depending upon what someone sells or what their thing is, you don't need to get a million views to see some benefits of this, but you do need to niche down into whatever the thing is you sell. Sometimes you get these views that don't mean anything. It's
Right.
like if I'm selling golf lessons, I only want people to watch who might buy a golf lesson, and that might mean less views, but more niche down. And I lied. I got one more thing. What I would recommend doing is for anyone posting. When I used to post golf videos and still do in the beginning, I'd look at people who were posting golf videos who were getting views. I'd watch what they would do, but I would read all the comments, and there was such gold in the comments. Some of those big videos, you get 100 comments. People would tell you exactly what they wanted, what they
Hmm.
liked about the video, what they didn't. I want more of this or that. So like if I was going to do personal development videos, and like I might watch like Brendan Bouchard, let's say, or Tony Robbins, and like see what are people saying in these videos? What do they like? What can I start to model? And then I'm going to do my own version of that same content, right? Like I want to model success in my own and storytell my own way, but still in the lane, not copy, but model what they're doing. I think that's like the quickest way to start to build build the audience. And also, I lied again. I got a long answer. Is like when people have successful YouTube businesses or online and stuff, the titles they use in the thumbnails are never by accident. So if they're using titles and reusing them and getting great views, that is on purpose. They know something. And so I would be looking at those same words, those same phrases, the length of video, how they start the video, how they close it. Like there's a lot of clues in there along the way.
That is amazing. So tell me, how did your golf team come to be? I know you said you met your partner. How did the members come from 2016 to now? Like, how did this come about?
Yeah, so Mary was my partner. I met her right along the way, and that's been very helpful. I think having a partner in things too to keep you accountable and have someone is a helpful thing to grow a business. And then I read a couple books on like how to build teams and stuff, and it seemed like the first thing everyone did was to get an assistant.
Mm,
So it was like a partner, and then like, hey, what's your first hire? And a personal assistant was that, and I got very lucky. Well, I hired one or two people that didn't work out in the beginning, but then I got very lucky to find my now executive assistant, Micah,
nice.
to basically like, take the tasks off that he's really good at that um, don't earn as much revenue relative to other things I could do. And so I heard someone say the one time, like, you think about your main task. Let's say I was giving golf lessons for $100 an hour. And they're like, effectively, anything you would do that makes you less than $100 an hour, you should outsource. Because if I can make 100 and pay someone
Right.
20, you know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, that makes more sense.
Hmm.
So I tried to look at it that way of anything I could outsource that's less than what I could make for another lesson, or even I could give a lesson for 100 and I'd pay for 5 hours, like, so assistant was the second one. Micah sent me an email, kind of just a cold email. Hey, love your stuff. Would love to talk or work, whatever. So that's how we met. I didn't have to recruit him or anything. Got very lucky. Um, we hired an assistant that my partner Mary, or editor that my partner Mary found. That was probably in a year like a little bit later, but the assistant was early. And then I started hiring coaches to help coach the online lessons right away from people that I knew. I will say we were lucky and fortunate that we were pretty early to market. So like we were not a lot of people had golf membership sites in 2016, 17. So a lot of my friends who were great coaches just didn't have an online thing going. So I was able to get them involved with us early before they started. And they were all guys that are, equal to or better coaches than I am. Wasn't people I even had to like train or anything. So I got very lucky with the timing. Like Facebook, because it was first to market, could hire
Hmm.
great talent, because people, that was the first thing to go to. So we got fortunate with that. But I would say a partner when possible. I think the first thing would be an assistant. If you can hire out tasks, to where you can do your main money making activity more, that would be the first hire. And then I would look to hire people who can replicate the thing that you do that earns money. Like for me, that's coaching. Can people help with that? And that's hard to do. I think for a lot of business owners and people, it's like, oh, someone can't do it as good as I can, or this is my baby and they're not gonna be able to do it as good. And that's probably true. Like if someone can do something 80% as good, I think that's good. They're probably
Right.
not going to ever care about it as much as you. That's okay. you know. But I think if you go assistant, um, coach, or whatever you do, and then if you get beyond that point, then you want to look at someone to help you like increase sales. That could be like a marketing person, a sales team, depending upon what the product is. I think that's a pretty safe order to go into.
That's awesome. Because, some people are still learning the stages. So that's why I asked the question to kind of, give people variety of information on how to build their brand, you know,
And
because, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, Sheena, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Mm-mm.
I think one thing that's important too, because like we're talking again, like, because I'm in year 8 now, right? But like in year 1 in the beginning, like my focus was just how do I make $1,000 a month online?
Right.
I had this big vision of like, let's make XYZ, but it was like, all right, let's start with it. Let's start with 1,000 a month. What could I do to create $1,000 a month online? And there was no team then. That's just like me. How do I got to go get clients? What do I got to do? And get some momentum, like make $1 online and then make 100 and then make 1,000. And then we started to make 1,000. I'm like, let's try and make 3, what would that look like? And then you go from 3 to 10, 10 to 20. So it's like, I think that's important too. In the beginning, it wasn't like from 0 to 100 grand a month. It was like
Right.
0 to 1 to start with. How could you make your first 1,000? Like, what would that look like?
It's about taking those, how they say baby steps, but learning
Yeah.
how you say niche down on your craft, but still charging more for your product as it grows. So
Mm,
then I got it. Told you. Been paying
yeah.
attention. So what are some technical to do steps to transformation?
Yeah. So like personal transformation.
Mhm.
So there's a couple of things that have helped me a lot. I think the first thing I keep going back to is that clarity on your future self. It's cool now. It's a little more popular, Sheena, with like some of the online of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Like you see manifesting a lot now, right? You see that a
Mhm.
lot. I didn't see that a lot on online when I first started this stuff, but it's popular now, which is great. So I think it starts with getting clarity. Transformation starts with getting clarity on where you want to go, right? So like if I wanted to lose weight, I'd get really clear on how much weight I want to lose and by when I want to do it. I want to lose 25 pounds in 90 days specifically, right? And then when I have specifics, then I can start to coordinate the plan to get there. Like, what do I actually have to do tactics wise? So I would get clarity on that. My recommendation tactics to do that would be to take a piece of paper, and I would write this down if possible versus type it or something. And I would put a timer on your phone for 15 minutes. And I would write on this page, imagine yourself 10 years in the future, and write down what your dream life would look like. No logistics involved. If you catch yourself where you're like, oh, I wouldn't be able to afford that, or I could never live there because of XYZ, like remove all that stuff. This is just like a dream life. I would write that down and get clear on it. And then I would take that same phone and start with like a 5 minute timer every day where you put on 5 minutes, lay down, close your eyes, breathe for a second, and imagine yourself in that position 10 years from now and the emotions that would be attached to it. Example, let's say I imagine a beach house. I imagine myself walking onto the porch and seeing the ocean. I feel the ocean breeze. I could taste me sipping a coffee. I feel my bathing suit on my body. I feel the sun on my skin. Like I'm talking feel like you're there. And if someone hasn't watched Dr. Joe Dispenza on YouTube, be a good guy to watch for like the how to tackle to do it. So get clear on it, spend time on it every day, 5 minutes. And then I would add some daily habits. Like if I want to find some personal stuff, and now we're getting into my zone here. Like I love this stuff, right? So when I first started to watch Jim Rohn, and he was like, personal development is key. Spend more time on making you better than you do on your job. That kind of threw me further. But I'm like, what exactly do you mean by that? Like make you better versus just your job. So I spent some time, Sheena, and I looked at like, what do people do that are high achievers that I like? And what are the habits they do daily? Pretty similarly across the board. There was a couple ones that popped out, 80% of the time or more. Working out was one of them, getting yourself physically to do something. So like I do 45 minutes every morning, 5:30 a.m. non-negotiable. Meditating was on there, right? And so I do that sort of visualization meditation. Listening to some positive personal development or feeding yourself some good stuff was on there. So I've got a 30-minute, listen to 30 minutes of personal development every day. That's like a rule on there. The mindfulness, um, going to the gym, reading was on there, right? So like almost people almost always read every day. So I got to read 20 pages per day. And those are like the big four that are on there. And I've added some little things to that list, but every day must work out. Every day must do mindfulness, do reading. What's the last one I have on there? Workout personal development video. And I've got a sheet on my wall so you can see how I do this. Now this is probably a little much for some people, but it works, right? It is what it is. I write those things down every day.
I was gonna
Daily to
ask you
dos.
that.
Yeah. I write them down. And so I just check mark them off. You can see them. Boom, boom, boom. As I do them, I write them down. So I've got a daily thing where I wake up and write those down and do them. And then I've got a weekly tracker where I do the same thing of things I need to do per week. And I write those all down and I check mark them off as I go. And I got a monthly one. Now I understand that some people are going to listen to that and be like, dude, that's kind of overboard. And that may be true. That may be true. But it's worked really well. It's worked
And,
really
and
well.
and you know the thing about that, sometimes what works you can't, you shouldn't break it, and if
Mm,
it takes you writing it per week, writing it per month, and writing it per year, and be able to checking it off is now visually, and it's something you see every day. So it
mm.
helps your mind be then starting focus on where you're trying to go, not where you're trying to be, the things you're trying to do, and how you're trying to set yourself up for your next season.
And you
So
know what else it does, Sheena, too, is it makes me feel good about myself. Every day
absolutely.
when I check mark, like I did that, the easiest way I've found to build self-confidence is just like to keep the promises you make with yourself. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do this today. And when I do them, there's you can get a lot of self-confidence and good feeling from that. I don't know how you are, Sheena, but like a recipe for me to feel really shitty about myself is to promise myself something and then not do it.
Absolutely. Because sometimes it's like, how you have that mindset that sends you disappointed yourself because you didn't
Mm,
do it. But one thing I also remember is that it is only one of you, and be grateful for what you did accomplish. Because sometimes
mm.
it's only 24 hours in a day. And sometimes we can't get it all done. So we do have to cheer for what we do, and do remember, don't overdo your list too for that day,
Mm.
because it's only 24 hours in a day. And if, like me, I have two kids plus the job plus a husband. So trying to do it all, you only one person. So you can kind of also be grateful for what you did accomplish within the 24 hours that you did have.
So glad you
So
brought that
as
up too. What
absolutely.
1000%. And that's like that list I have. This is a single guy. I got all the time in the world,
Right.
right? So like I would create a daily list that's like doable. Let's say you're so busy that I can be like, I can do a 20-minute walk a day. And that might be what it is. And when I'm doing the 20-minute walk, I'm going to do my mindfulness or my meditation, whatever. So you can knock like
Hmm.
two of those out in one shot, and it's or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Like something that's a great point. Something that's actually achievable. It doesn't need to be a million things. It could be one thing.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the way we have to guide them. So, as you went through this journey of being a golfing and coaching, you said now you're starting. What is the next online business you're doing right now?
Yeah, it's called Lessons I've Learned with Eric Cogorno. It's a working title, but
What
like it'll
made
be
you
like
decide to do that now? What made you decide to go from that to that?
so when I did that 10-year visual in the future, I always imagined I would start this kind of halfway through about 5 years. I wanted to build the golf thing big enough where I
Hmm.
felt good talking about these sort of things because I've actually done it. And I also wanted to give myself the time to go through these personal development things to be able to talk about them. Like the golf, like I started coaching golf. I had been playing for a decade.
Mm.
So I was like, I feel comfortable, coaching this. I've been doing it forever. So when I started talking about golf coaching on YouTube, I'd been coaching for a decade. Feel really comfortable talking. I've been doing it. So personal development, I wanted to be able to do for a long enough period of time where I'm like, hey, I walk the walk. I'm not going to just say, but I'm actually going to do these things with you as well. And I've done them. Here's the results. And so I'm like 7 years into doing that, the personal development stuff, 6 or 7, I guess. So I feel like I've done it long enough where I've like learned a lot, things that have worked that haven't worked, where I feel like I did with golf, where I really feel like I can help so many people. And and so that's sort of where the process starts of like, I feel it. I feel like I've done the work. I feel like I can help other people I know enough. And then the trick or art of it is like, how do you do that?
Right.
What does that look like? And so we thought, Sheena, like we're going to follow the same sort of blueprint we did with golf, which is like try and build expertise, build an audience online. And then with golf, we did 2 years of posting before we monetized, really, like before we put out an offer of anything. So my whole focus in the beginning is try to build audience, give people good value for free, help them, have them trust you. And then at some point, we'll have some sort of monetization, maybe like a membership. So I'm not sure yet, to be honest.
What it
I've
would
been
look like.
Yeah, I've got things in my mind, but like I have to see. I've been doing some testing of coaching people and seeing where I can add value and things like that. So I'm learning as we go. And it's funny, Sheena, kind of because we're in year 8 of the golf stuff,
Hmm.
starting back from zero, something new has been fun to kind of relearn what the initial process is like.
Do you feel it? Do you feel scared? Like, not scary, but do it feel a little different being that you did 8 years here as golfing and now you're going back to year one doing the, you know, progress to, start here. Like,
Yeah.
do it feel a little like, not, well, I say nervous. I won't say scared because you do things within scary. You got to do it in fear, faith over fear.
Mm. Yeah, it feels something. I'm not sure what the word is either, but I'm, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I
It's
don't want to
like,
call it scary or nervous, but it just feels a little different. I could
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, it feels
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Yeah. And
Uncomfortable.
it's like I'm getting the feeling too as we started to like film videos, a lot of the same stuff is happening. I can like
Mhm.
remember back when we first started, just figuring little stuff out. But I'll go back to that clarity thing before of like, because I meditate on this every day, like I feel so certain where I'm going to be in 10 years that this is all part of the process along the way. So I don't feel any like, I feel like it's what's happening is exactly what I thought would happen. It's kind of going how I kind of sort of thought it would. But it definitely feels like we're starting from day one again, compared to the golf pieces. But all as expected. It's like we're gonna put videos out and no one's gonna watch. We're gonna like figure out topics that I do or don't like. We're gonna post 100 videos just to kind of figure things out. We'll find what works. We'll double down. Because the one thing I'm certain of is we won't quit. Like we will just keep going. And so I think there's a point where it's like unreasonable not to expect some progress. I just
Absolutely.
don't know how long that'll take. Like with golf, it took us 2 years. This might take six. And but I plan on doing personal development. I'm 35. I plan on living to 100, and I plan on doing it for the rest of my life. So I'm also like in no rush at the same time, which is nice.
Absolutely. Do you feel now, being that it was 8 years of golfing and now you're coaching and personal development, which one do you prefer better, or you like them both the same?
Yeah, I like the potential of the personal development. I like the newness and uncertainty of it. Kind of like a relationship too, when like you're with someone for 8 years, some of the excitement and stuff can go away. Like those first dates are, kind of cool and exciting. And so I think just something new inherently is kind of like interesting, and exciting.
Right.
But but then you're like, I've been with someone for 8 years. You're like, I gotta get back in the dating pool. How am I gonna be? There's like uncertainty and stuff that goes on with that
I'm about
too.
to say, do you feel like you're ready to go back, to run back to the golf and say, all right, I guess I got to go back over here? Like,
Yeah, exactly,
because
exactly. And
the comfortableness is in the golfing because you did it, you mastered it. And it's like now being in the uncomfortable, it's a new zone. And one quote that I like to say, to be successful, you have to get uncomfortable, get comfortable to then be successful.
mm, there is no doubt about it. And all of the leaps that we've taken have been through that uncomfort or discomfort, like
Absolutely.
all of them, any big leap. And I think the kicker for me too, Sheena, with it is we're going to keep doing the golf with the personal development. I made the mistake once early in my golf career where I thought I wanted to do real estate, and I
Mm.
just quit the golf and did the real estate, and that was a huge mistake. So I'm going to keep this golf thing going so I kind of try and have the best of both worlds, hopefully.
Absolutely, because what you can do too with that is offering it both in packages once they both, when you come to that, thing, because teaching golf is also like teaching a personal development as well. So you can kind of
Mm,
intertwine the business of, let's get a little personal development with a little coaching golf, because a lot of it is mindset change in order to be confident in anything you do. So
exactly, exactly. Totally agree.
absolutely. So before you leave, is there any advice that you would like to leave any future entrepreneurs, people that is out there that's looking for sky's the limit?
Yeah, yeah. There's so many tactical things that I think could help people. Like we talked about some of these things, right? But I think at the core of all that, if I could have suggest one thing for someone to do, and it's because it's helped me the most, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's like taking the sheet out and writing down and getting clear on the things you want to do. And I've read several books and heard people, I'm sure you have as well. And I hear these successful people talk about it all the time. Like one of the guys used to follow Grant Cardone. He said he would write down his goals every morning, every night, right? Like Earl Nightingale would talk about that every morning, every night. Dan Sullivan, this business guy, would write on a sheet of paper what I want every day for 25 years. So, like, those are things that are simple, not easy, that are highly effective. It is simple to write that down every day, but it's not easy to keep doing it. But the effect I've had with that, Sheena, is like 100x everything in my life. relative to like, I'd love to share tactics with people of like, how do you price products? How do you build audience? YouTube titles and thumbs, like all that stuff I love too. But I think it's got to be after the clarity of where you want to go. And the clarity also, that list can change over time and will change. And it doesn't need to be in that first 15 minutes, have it perfect. Like that might be an exercise someone does over and over. Like I spend 30 minutes every Sunday having a think session where I just go through this stuff and like re-clarifying and solving problems and stuff. So putting attention on taking time to think and get clear on that would be the non-sexy, but I think most impactful answer to that.
But I mean, that's how we grow. And like you said, it might change and people need to understand that it's not always a moment that everything that you write at first is going to be exactly the same, because your mind can shift within a month to something different. So that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing that you sit down on Sundays and you look at the list and you like you said, you think. It's a think session. And it's like, is this really where I'm going, or is there something different that I need to do with this list that needs to change to make me a better version of me?
Mm.
So I love it. I love it as always. Can you leave the information on how people can get in contact with you, your website, how they can work with you, how they can learn how to, get their professional development if they want to learn golf and all the et ceteras?
Yeah, thank you. I think YouTube's the best place to start. If you want to look at the golf stuff and the actual things we do, like how we title, how we thumbnail, how we intro videos, how we get people to paid, that's Cogorno Golf, Cogorno Golf. You could watch that, hold me accountable for all the stuff I said that we do. And then if you're interested in the personal development stuff, that new YouTube channel we started is Lessons I've Learned with Eric Cogorno. That's where I'll talk more about the stuff we talked about today of like actual tactical stuff to like live better, build businesses and stuff like that.
As always, it's been amazing. I thank you for dropping in to the Power New Voice, and know that the doors is always open here at the Power New Voice, because we're here to learn, to educate, to motivate. So Eric, it's been a pleasure having you here. It's been amazing. I've learned a lot. I hope other people that's been watching learned a lot. And as always, I am Sheena Goodine, better known as the lady behind the mask. I thank you for tuning in. Get educated, getting motivated, getting inspired. You can always find me at Facebook, Sheena Goodine, Instagram, Lady Behind the Mask 22, and my website is SheenaUnmaskedMotivation.com. And as always, we thank you. It's been a pleasure, and we hope to see y'all next time. Life struggles. When life tries to fight you back, you have to be ready to fight back. You have to be ready to stand your ground. Life struggles. When life tries to fight you back, you have to be ready to fight back. You have to be ready to stand your ground and be able to. Unfortunately, life is and bold. We learned that there are people that do not want to see you rise. They